Montgomery Community Media presents Small Business Network, brought to you by Montgomery County Economic Development Corporation. SBN is also sponsored by M&T Bank and Leadership Montgomery.
Hello and welcome to Montgomery Community Media's Small Business Network at Home Edition. I'm your host, Kelly Leonard. Thank you for tuning in with us today. Joining me online is the President and CEO of Montgomery County Economic Development Corporation, Benjamin Wu. I'm also joined by Tien Wong, who serves as an MCEDC board member, as well as chair for LORE Systems. Tien is also the CEO of Tech 2000 and Opus 8 Incorporated, as well as being active with Connectpreneur. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you, Kelly.
It's great to connect with both of you this way. We have a lot of ground to cover, so we're just going to jump right in. First up, Ben, I know you're relatively new in your role. It'd be great to hear more about sort of how you came to MCEDC and to learn what sort of projects you were up to or what the organization was focusing on pre-COVID-19.
Well, yeah, thank you, Kelly. It's great to join you again on SBN, this time for the first time for me with the MCEDC. The Montgomery County Economic Development Corporation is a public-private partnership with a board led by business leaders with the express mission of trying to support Montgomery County's business attraction, retention, and expansion. So I've had the privilege of being with the EDC since its inception. And as you recall, County Executive Leggett, during his tenure, established the EDC in order to give the business community a greater voice in the economic development future of Montgomery County. And so for me, someone who grew up in Montgomery County, worked for Connie Morella, who represented this area in Congress, also for Governor Hogan, being able to work with the EDC, with board members like Tien, and to have the opportunity to help shape the future of where my family and I live was just too great a chance to pass up. So I'm very excited about being back home and working with the EDC.
Awesome. So now what types of programs, when you came on board, what types of things was the organization focusing on sort of pre-COVID?
Well, the traditional economic development mission of the EDC has always been attraction, retention, and expansion. So in a normal time, that would be the express focus and the mission of the organization. But as you know, these are not normal times.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, Tien, how about you? Can you talk about sort of your work prior to the crisis, including some of the work that you've been doing on Connectpreneur?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely, Kelly. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And so my work has been focused around technology for the most part, as well as investment. So pre-COVID, while I'm still the chairman of two tech companies, one is an ed tech company called Lumius, and the other one is a network engineering company called LORE, which you had mentioned. And my core company is Opus 8, which does investment into fintech, property technology, marketing tech, and health tech companies on an early stage basis. And we also help companies raise money. And then Connectpreneur is an event that we've been doing now for 8 years, and we've done 47 events, I believe. So
Wow.
Starting on March 25th, we went virtual for our first event, and we had over 700 people on our on that event, on our inaugural virtual event. We've done 3 virtual events since, and we're going to be doing at least 1 a month, possibly 2 a month going forward.
Very good. Wow, that's impressive. Now, I know none of us could have predicted the coronavirus and the tremendous impact that it's having and that it's causing. Based on your own experience, how have you seen businesses sort of weathering this whole downturn?
As I mentioned, Kelly, we have had to evolve our mission beyond the traditional economic development mission within the EDC. And so our new mission is really to help with the response, the reopening, and the recovery for Montgomery County's economy. And towards that end, for trying to help small businesses as they respond to the crisis that they're facing. We've been working with the county council and also the county executive to help support small business assistance grants within the county. So the public emergency grants that were passed, $20 million for the assistance program. Was enacted by the county council, and also there was additional $5 million for 25 total for retail and restaurant industries as well. And then we've been helping the county also administer the Telework Assistance Fund, which provides a support for those small businesses that have purchased telework equipment so that they can have a continuity of operations, even as the governor has issued a stay-at-home order. And it allows for small businesses to maintain connectivity with their clients as well as their employees. And the EDC, we've also been trying to provide detailed guidance to small businesses on all the business resources and business assistance programs that are out there that can assist small businesses during this time of crisis. And I would recommend that small businesses go to our website in order to get the information that they need. www.thinkmoco.com, www.thinkmoco.com.
Awesome. And Tien, just from your perspective, I mean, as a business owner and then a supporter, an advocate for business here in the area, what are some of the challenges that you've seen them face as they've been navigating life with COVID?
Yeah, it really is dependent on circumstance. So obviously industry, size of company, stage of company, how many fixed costs they have, how many people they have, fixed obligations and whatnot. I'm on the board of a variety of different groups and also an investor in a number of different companies. And we've seen the gamut. I think the obvious sectors that have been hit hard are having a trickle down domino effect on companies, and whether it is what it is, you have to, as an entrepreneur, I'm encouraged by a lot of the entrepreneurs we're working with and talk to how optimistic they are, relatively speaking. I don't know if it's a temporary thing or if they're just built that way, but very surprised, even though business is down for almost everybody, not everybody, but maybe 90% of the people I'm talking to, business is substantially down. But they're trying to figure out ways to reconnect with their customers, to engage employees better, to find new markets, to pivot in ways that they can pivot. And I've seen that also in the county with the way, and Ben and his team have get a lot of credit for this, is, watching all these manufacturing companies, these light manufacturing and 3D printing companies in the county step up in a huge way. And, they have a greater mission now. And I'm seeing that analogously with other companies where they're putting aside their profit motive and focusing on, look, we have a bigger problem here. We have a global challenge, and it's high stakes. Lives are at stake, and it's awesome to see. So, my viewpoint is more of a positive viewpoint, to be frank.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you should say that, but that I think that shows your heart as an entrepreneur, right? At the end of the day, entrepreneurs, they're in the business of solving problems. They see a void and they fill that gap.
The best quote I heard was from John Scully, who's the former CEO of Apple Computer and former CEO of Pepsi. He's now with David Steinberg, running a company called Zeta Global, which has over $1 billion valuation. Anyway, I was on a recent call with John, and John said, now is not the time for promotion. Now is the time for connecting with emotion. I thought that was like so fitting and so relevant, and I've seen it everywhere, really. People are just stepping up connecting with colleagues, friends, clients, their teams. And it gives me a lot of faith in the future to see that.
Yeah, absolutely. And as Warren Buffett has famously said in the past, when there's blood in the streets, and of course that analogy is like extreme, but that's when fortunes are made oftentimes, is, you know, when you look at so many of the giants that were created during down periods. And so I think it is in all of our best interest to sort of try to identify the good in this. The other thing that struck me, and even in reading your bio strikes me, is the fact that it seems like you are the king of diversification, right? And I think that is what will also help so many of the businesses that are out there to weather this storm, is to diversify and be in this position and willingness to pivot.
I think that this crisis has taught all of us in business that it's hard to be single-threaded. You need to have multiple plan B, C, and D options and different ways, whether it's a supply chain situation or dependence on one customer or dependence on a geography. I think everyone's going to move towards diversifying their business, their operations, and their revenue streams.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So Ben, let me pivot back to you, because I know you were sharing the different programs, the grant programs, the business assistance, and more recently, the telework program. I recently had an opportunity to connect with Council Member Friedson. I just gave him a promotion. But Council Member Friedson, he was sharing some of the challenges that they've experienced, or that we've experienced as the county, in terms of just administering some of these programs. I don't know that MCEDC has been in the whole telework, the program, long enough to see any of the challenges, but have you experienced any challenges in terms of just getting the word out and or getting money to people? Because I know the program was announced, but has it been fully launched yet?
Yes.
The telework program? Okay.
So the county council passed the telework assistance program and the fund on Thursday, and we started accepting applications yesterday on Wednesday. So we were able to turn it around in less than a week. One thing that is clear, though, whether it's the FEG, the Telework Assistance Fund, or any of these small business assistance programs that are designed to help businesses survive, maintain continuity in this crisis, is that the demand is so great that it's far exceeding the supply. And we've seen this on the federal level, we've seen it on the state level, and also on the county level. Montgomery County has provided more localized funding, direct funding for its constituency than any other county out of the 24 jurisdictions in the state. But yet we see that this demand is so great because this crisis is so severe. And what we need to do is not just help businesses respond back effectively to crisis, but also we need to continue to work to provide assistance in the reopening and then the eventual recovery for businesses. Governor Hogan has laid out 4 building blocks for Maryland's reopening plan. And they include expanding the testing capacity. And Tien had mentioned about how wonderful our local companies have been in stepping up to play a role in this crisis. And in Montgomery County, we have one of the largest concentrations of life sciences companies in the country. And they are helping in order to make their production for testing capacity, and also to make sure that we have enough tests in Maryland and in Montgomery County. The governor has also laid out another component, which is increasing the hospital surge capacity. And the county council provided a $10 million special appropriations to ensure that we had enough hospital beds and that we have the critical care facilities that are necessary in an anticipated surge. Another building block that the governor laid out is ramping up our supply of PPE. And we enacted with the county council a local production fund for those small manufacturers in Montgomery County that were willing to step up, to recalibrate and to reconfigure their operations so that they can help provide the critical supply of PPE necessary, from sanitizers, face masks, 3D shields, and the like. So the Montgomery County companies are really taking that next step to try to be part of the solution. And then also the fourth component the governor laid out as a building block for Maryland's reopening is building a robust contact tracing operation. And so we've got Montgomery County companies that are also engaged with that, especially in the tech world. So what we've seen yesterday in the governor's press conference, as he talked about this phased reopening, that we're on the verge of happening, and that we're going to begin the process of trying to get to the other side and to open up our economy and to allow for businesses and for the stay-at-home order to be lifted. And so we're getting to the point of where after we reopen, we're going to have to take a hard look to see what the economic recovery will look like and how it will impact businesses across the board, small, large, and medium-sized businesses, because it's certainly going to look a lot different than was pre-
Absolutely. Yeah. So with regard to the accepting of the applications for the telework program, do we have a sense yet in terms of the volume, like how many folks have applied for that assistance? And I'm assuming the whole process is online?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, everything is online on our website. And the only caveat is that, as I mentioned, the demand is so great that we may very well exceed the amount of funds that were appropriated by the county council, $250,000, and each applicant can receive up to $2,500 to offset the costs that they would have made in order to stay connected with their clients and their employees through telework.
Okay.
So we may need or the county council may need to revisit this and seek additional funding if the demand is so great. Okay.
But as of this recording, there's still money available, right?
Well, the applications were open yesterday.
Okay.
And we are going to disperse the funding through a lottery instead of a first come, first serve.
Okay.
So we'll conduct that lottery by next Wednesday. So people should still apply so that they can be eligible in the lottery. But right now what we're seeing, Kelly, is that the demand may be so great that the full special appropriations may be exhausted by the end of the first lottery.
Wow. Okay. So, and I know you alluded to, and you referenced back to the governor's plan, reopening plan, and I know it's a gradual phased approach. From each of your perspective, once the county begins to reopen, how will work look different for you as well as for the other businesses in the county? What do you imagine that will look like for us?
Well, I know that for a number of businesses, the way that they used to do business is going to be a lot different than how they will be doing business, especially as we move forward in this phased reopening. The hospitality, the tourism, the leisure industries are so important to the county, to the state, and to the country, are going to probably have a slow and incremental return back to normalcy. And a lot of how quickly they can recover back to how they were will depend on a number of factors, including consumer confidence, a number of tests that we have, whether or not people will feel that they have the confidence to go out and to resume not just the level of spending, but also to the type of activities that they had been doing before the crisis hit. So conditional to the recovery is also making sure that we have the vaccines, that we have the testing, and that we can prepare for the anticipated surge if and when that happens.
Okay. Now, Tien, from your perspective, how do you see business sort of evolving in this new normal, so to speak?
I think as Ben said it perfectly. I think it's going to be gradual. There's going to have to be a comfort level with the psyche. I mean, as much as everyone wants to get back and go up to, 60, 80 miles an hour from zero, the reality is that this is a killer. It's a very, there's a stark reality as people are dying. And I think some people who might be at risk and, hypertension, for example, or diabetes, and those are very common ailments. And people that have those two are at risk. So I think anyone, or asthma even, those are things that would scare a lot of people off. And I don't know. I mean, I've been studying that myself. I've read some things recently that the nature of the office work is going to change. So you're going to see open floor plan and congregation areas are going to be wiped out, and they're going to go for more plexiglass coverings around workstations, one-way walk paths in the office. So no more two-way traffic, manned elevators, temperature readings in the lobby, all kinds of stuff that's going to be, I've heard of people doing half shifts or, every other day kind of shifting to do, the maintain social distancing. What's interesting, and, my background is also in call centers, and very interesting to see how these operations, either manufacturing operations, we've seen situations with meatpacking plants, for example, or even call centers where it's very, very close quarters, how they're going to deal with that.
Yeah.
I think you can do call centers from home. You're seeing a lot of that happen, but you can't do meatpacking from home. You can't do manufacturing from home. Be very, very interesting to see how that gets done. But until we have a vaccine and herd immunity or things that Fauci is talking about, it's going to be probably pretty dicey for the next year or so, I think.
Yeah, and I'd also be curious, since I have you both here, to just get a sense of your take. Because, from an economic development perspective and the fact that you can't help but even prior to COVID, driving around Montgomery County and seeing the spaces, the open spaces, particularly in our high-rise, mid-rise facilities, and the fact that now that so many professional services organizations have learned to sort of maneuver successfully, or they're getting by with smaller sort of home-based locations, what this impact might have from a longer term perspective on our developers in the county. As organizations decide, okay, outside of people, my space is my second largest investment, my second largest operating cost. And so we figured out a way to work remotely. We're not going back to those office spaces because, to your point, Tien, how do we make sure that we honor the psyche of our workforce, in that people may just not be comfortable sitting 8 to 10 hours a day with an individual across from them who they don't know what they might have been exposed to, and now they're putting themselves at risk. So how do we help give comfort, I guess, to the development community in terms of what the longer term implication of people perhaps not going into traditional workspaces?
Okay, I think that historically there will be a threshold moment in which people will say, when they're referring to how they've conducted their business as pre-COVID and post-COVID. And there are going to be a number of measures that businesses will have to adapt to the new reality post-COVID, of how they not just conduct their business, engage with clients, but also treat their employees as well. So these are evolving issues that a number of companies are already forward thinking about. And as we move towards a strategic plan for recovery, we'll continue to dialogue and assist businesses with that communication as well. One of the things that we want to do as we look to trying to get to the other side, EDC wants to be the repository, and I think we're continually being looked at by both the county council and the county executive to be part of the solution, to help lead us to that recovery. And so we want to be able to leverage our county, our state, as well as our federal resources, because we're seeing a lot of investments, especially on the federal level and the state level as well. We're also beginning conducting a multi-year longitudinal study to assess some of the evolving issues that are impacting businesses that will help inform and educate not just the lawmakers, but also the thought makers as well, so that we can continue to track how businesses are doing, what their top issues are. But we also want to make sure and see how effective these business assistance programs have been to the businesses' survivability and their long-term health. So, one thing is very clear. It's critical for Maryland to have Montgomery County be successful in our economic recovery.
Absolutely.
Montgomery County is 25% of the state's GDP. Montgomery County has to lead the way for Maryland to recover fully. And so that's the thrust that's been given to us. That's the mandate that we now are trying to assume.
Awesome. Well, we, in our final minutes together, I would love to perhaps, Tien, I'll tee it up for you to close us out, since you are an optimist, and there is a bright lining, I'm sure, at the end of this devastation. And so I'd love to just in a minute, just maybe take a moment to hear a positive story that's come out of this crisis.
Well, I mean, there's many positive stories. I'm just reading tons of articles on the generosity of companies and people, whether it's a large company like Amazon or Alibaba that's stepping up and donating tremendous amounts of resources and money to the cause, or like Ben said earlier, some of the smaller manufacturers in our county who probably are not operating on high margins to begin with, but they've just paused everything and focused exclusively on producing hand sanitizer perhaps, or producing face shields and other types of PPE. It's just very heartwarming. And I think that, the silver lining in this cloud, just globally speaking, not just in business, is that I think people are getting closer to nature. They're getting closer to humanity, and they're seeing the best of what's happening in the human condition. I hate to see people dying and suffering like this. It's awful. And at the same token, you're seeing that the best of people is coming out, really, in every way. So I have too many to recount, but yeah.
And Kelly, if I could add one great story that I think we can all be proud of as Montgomery Countyans. And Robert McCartney highlighted this in his article this week in the Washington Post about how Montgomery County's life sciences community is playing a critical role nationally and globally in finding a coronavirus vaccine.
Yeah.
From Emergent Biosciences, Novavax, GeneDx, Zalgen Labs, QIAGEN, Vigene, just to name a few. These companies are going to be the reason why a vaccine will be created, and that we can then have the confidence to go back and resume a full recovery in our economy. And then, of course, the fact that NIH is here, Tony Fauci's NIAID is here as well, and FDA, they'll all be playing a major role to make sure that a coronavirus vaccine is found, and then we can look beyond this and get to the other side in a way that will be impactful, and it will allow us, Montgomery County and Maryland, to lead our national recovery.
Absolutely. And with that, I just want to thank you both for joining me today. And thank you to everyone who's online joining us from home or from your home office. On behalf of the Small Business Network. We wish you continued wellness and be in high spirits. Thank you for joining us.